work through this solving formulas. Again, notes, helpful when we get to this on a quiz, not on today's, but when we get to the future on how do I get a variable by itself if I have lots of variables. So you'll look at the top, and this is the stuff we're good at. Okay? What would I do if I were going to solve this? Now, we're not going to solve these, but we're going to talk about what I would normally do to solve them. So first,
alarm clock, Jimmy.
That's a late alarm clock to start. So, what we're going to do is normally you'd multiply both sides by 5 first, because again, we'd want to get rid of the fraction part first, which makes sense. So you're like, okay, once I did that, I'll kind of tell you what this would look like so we can think a little more about what I'd do next. So once I did that, right, I'd want to subtract the 8. And then finally, when that's done, I just divide by the -2 that's left. Stuff that we've been doing forever. Once we do that, when I look at the other side, now they didn't give me as much of a hint on the other side ones, but that's okay. Over here, there's a couple of things I could do. Now some of you might say distribute, but I wouldn't. I'm going to make it simpler than that. If I decide I'm going to get this alone first, how would I move this +7 to the other side? Subtract. Okay, so if I minus the 7 over, here's what my new equation would look like. Now again, some of you may say, well, why don't we distribute? Because that's actually going to make more work for us out of this. Yeah. No. No, proofs are strictly for geometry. So yes, there will be no proofing. Yes, no proofing. I know that wasn't one of my fun things either with these. Since I'm multiplying here by -4, I'm going to divide by the -4. Because if I divide by -4, notice all that's left with my x is the -1. And I know how to undo that. I just add 1. Those types of things, those undos, are going to be exactly the same thing in what we're doing when we're solving a formula instead of trying to solve for x. Now the tricky thing here is it's not just going to get down to x and a number at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of use the ones at the top to help us see, oh, I'm going to do the same things when I get down here. And good, we can even fit them all in. Notice these look the same, except now instead of numbers, I got more letters. That's okay. So here, just like here, I multiplied both sides by the 5. Here I'd multiply both sides by b. And again, I know that looks weird. But the process is the same. So I'd have what's left up top in my fraction, and I'd have these two variables over there. So once I get that, again, what's my goal? I'm trying to get the x part alone. So I'd do the opposite of plussing y. I'd minus it. You're like, well, wait a minute, what am I going to minus y from? And I just have to be content with writing it there. And once I do that, I just divide by whatever's with my a. So we subtracted y, and then we divided by a. And we are set and we're done. So you'll notice the steps are exactly the same, except I'm using variables in every step now. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I want to work on getting the part that has x by itself first. Same thing on the right side. If I minus my b out, and again, it's just kind of letting us see that whether it's a letter or a number, I can do the same types of things with these. So once I do my... Just like we did up above, we're going to divide by the part out here because I'm trying to get to that x. So I'm going to divide by a. And then finally, and it looks so weird, I'm going to add c, and that's actually what the answer would be. And like I said, I know it's weird, and you're like, now when would I use this? Maybe in science class sometime, you're doing something and you have the distance and the rate of something, you're trying to find time, you need to rearrange the formula. Maybe what we need to do is, you know, some of us maybe ponder the idea, besides about 2 of you in here, no, I'll take that back, 3 of you in here, that are interested in actually doing what needs to be done instead of doing just random, silly, goofy things, which are going to put you into strange, odd places when you're out of here. Not right now. Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. Right now, no. Unfortunately, no. No. So, whenever we're doing these, my job is always to get the term that's got x by itself first and undo the rest. Undo the minus b. I'm going to plus it.
Is there going to be numbers on the homework?
Nope, it's going to be all letters.
Mister, did that say add CO?
Add c. No, my y just kind of came down. It should just be add c.
Do we do like the same thing like with these letters as we do with the numbers?
Yeah, the undo process works exactly the same with the letters as it does with the numbers. Because now, since I'm trying to get x by itself, and I'm timesing it by a, I would divide by a. And again, you've got to get used to the fact that your answers may look kind of weird. You're like, all those letters? But my whole idea is to get x on a side by itself. Because like we were saying before, in science you may be trying to do something with distance equals rate times time. In this class, maybe we're doing something with interest sometime. And we just kind of work that out.
How do you get, why do you put b plus c?
Because here, when I was trying to get my x alone, I wanted to undo this minus b. So I plussed it to both sides to cancel this. So c plus b, I could write it either way. If you wrote it as c plus b, that'd be the same thing. But yeah, it's strange because we're used to things going together, not just kind of hanging out on the same side. That is the tricky part about this. It's getting over that mindset of, okay, if you want to get the x part by itself, how do I undo what's not in the box? Plus c. See, we've got this. That's the thing that drives me nuts, y'all. We're capable of doing good things and getting this stuff down. I know it's floating around in there. It's just, can we get it out? Ooh. Now I'm dividing x by a.
So you times.
Exactly. This is why I go nuts in here. I've got a smart group. The question is, are we going to use our intelligence for good things?
Are we the smartest class?
It depends on what day we're talking about. When you guys apply yourselves, you're very good.
Does it matter what order you put the C in the after?
Nope, as long as they're adding, whether I do f plus c or c plus f, it doesn't matter at all. So you're like, okay, again, wherever the x is first. How do I undo my divide by w? Multiply. You guys got this. Those cancel. Now again, I'm trying to get x alone. How do I get the positive a out of there? What's the opposite of doing a positive a or a plus a? Subtract. Now this time I got one more thing up my sleeve. Because there's a -1 hanging out in front of that x. So let's see. So that looks like I'm multiplying by -1. So what's my opposite going to be for me to be done? Divide. So x equals VW minus A over -1. Hey, we got our first number in an answer. Yeah, these are a little bit different. Because you're like, what the?
They seem kind of
Great, we
easy,
just don't pay
though.
attention in class.
That may happen sometimes.
No, we never did.
Oh. Now, here I got a little different of a situation because I'm like, well, wait a minute. I got this and I got this. Here's the general rule. When you're trying to get x or any variable alone, do the stuff that's furthest away first. So like here, if I say, okay, I just want to get this fraction alone first. What would be my first step on this one? Add that a. All right, so I got b plus x or cd. And you could put y plus a or you could put a plus y. They're both going to be the same. Now, I start looking and I go, okay, now the fraction becomes my problem. This got to go. So what's my opposite of dividing by that stuff? Multiply. And I can do 2 variables or 2 letters at a time. That's okay. I can wipe those out. And we're almost done. I got rid of the fraction. I don't have to distribute that CD. That's not a big deal. But I finally have got down to a point that I'm just about got my x alone. But I got that positive b that I'm adding to it that's sitting there. Minus the b. You're like, Harty, this might be the weirdest looking answer to something I've ever gotten. And I would not disagree with you. You're like, all that business? Yeah, all that business is actually needs it. Well,
I don't see a job using all letters.
an application,
Sound like candy to me.
well, let me put it this way. Let me use one that I actually would use, that I would use on a basis as we're going along. Sure, why not? For instance, like money. We're all going to deal with money sometime. So when you're thinking about money with things, if you have a chance to be able to put money away, like let's say the bank says they'll pay you a certain percent or something like that. Now some people just throw it in and not care. Go, I'm going to get some money, who cares? If you actually care about how much money you're going to get, you actually, if you have their percentage and know how much you're putting it in and for how long, you actually have to take that formula and switch it around to figure out, you know, maybe you want to make $100 over time or $1,000. There's a way to take that and move the numbers around so you can actually figure out how long it would take. So there are some applications for something like this, but for right now, the more specific application would be, can we do the same steps that we do when we're doing it for a regular equation? Can I do it when it's a little more abstract? Because the further you get along in math, the stranger things get and the more abstract they get. So that's kind of what I'm just trying to get you exposed to a little bit. So your job with this, when we're done with the quiz, because we kind of got some examples, and the ones I did on here are easier, so no big, crazy, huge ones. Yeah, that's what we did the quiz preview yesterday.
Oh, then why can't we start?
We're going to right now.
This is not a quiz.
No, this is not the quiz. I agree with you.
This the last one?
This will be the last one before your next homework check.
Where's college you say? Where's going
Okay. So use your other ones to kind of work through this. We're going to work through some more of these tomorrow too, though.